Hello and welcome again to another episode of Sacktown Talks. Jarrett Blonian here with you again. Happy New Year to everyone. Today we have a great show. We have Assembly member Sharon Quirk-Silva from the 65th Assembly District rejoining us this year. Sharon, how's it going? Happy New Year. Thank you for joining us.
Happy New Year, and thank you so much for having me. We are looking forward to better and brighter days, especially after yesterday.
Yeah, kind of to dive into, I guess, yesterday, kind of a weird day, something we haven't seen in a long time. We've had some crazy stuff happening here at our Capitol, but nothing quite like that. Can you kind of talk about kind of your thoughts and on kind of what happened yesterday at the U.S. Capitol?
Yes, I will be as clear as I can. It was, again, by not all of the protesters, but a small amount that breached the Capitol, really assault on our democracy, simple as can be. And there is nothing like that we've ever witnessed. I hope we never do again in our lifetime, but certainly there's got to be some questions answered about security. I would say personally, as an elected official, it does bring up quite a bit of security issues. If you remember about a year and a half ago at our Capitol, we had some anti-vaxxers that came in, and there were some protests, and in fact, some spitting at senators and so forth. And we were fairly alarmed by that. And there were talks about who enters, what's the protocol, but nothing like yesterday. So certainly it's alarming, but in the end, democracy prevailed, and that's the good news.
Yeah, it's kind of a bizarre incident. It seemed like kind of the heroes of yesterday were, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram putting the president on timeout and maybe shutting off going forward. So yeah, definitely a bizarre day of events. Kind of, your experience as a lawmaker one, but I guess, a lot of teachers were tweeting yesterday about this is kind of like the schoolroom training they go through. I guess kind of as a teacher, kind of what did you think, and kind of, I guess, your training and preparing for school shootings and stuff like that? Did you see any analogies there?
Yes, and I was thinking about that. I'm actually going to be writing somewhat of a opinion related to this because there are some similarities. I mean, as an educator for 30 years, you do go through trainings and drills every year related to whether it be earthquakes, whether it be now active shooters on campuses, and I've gone through that too. So it's certainly seen the images coming out of not only elected officials, but also, what people don't realize is there's a lot of staff, nonpartisan staff that work in buildings, and to see them really be exposed and threatened in that way, it makes it even more important, I think, that in all of our public buildings that we really institute some safety protocols, whether it's evacuation, whether it's, for example, I know with masks that the elected officials were asked to put on, the tear gas masks, some of them didn't even know that they had them on site there. So there's definitely some questions that need to be answered and protocols that need to be implemented.
Interesting. Tomorrow, Governor Newsom is expected to unveil his budget for this year. Can you kind of, I guess, talk to us about your thoughts on the budget and kind of what you're expecting to see in this year's budget?
Well, certainly less than a year ago, last March, our world has been turned upside down with pandemic. This, of course, affects our budget, not only everything from sales tax to our gas tax to the revenue coming into the state of California. So before we left and started this session, we already knew we had some major budget issues, and now, of course, we'll continue into another year. But some of the efforts on healthcare, as far as COVID and vaccinations being focused on, and the cost for those are very important. Additional funding for schools for PPE and to get kids back to school, the digital gap or digital divide, broadband, those are very important. But what's especially important to me is to see the augmentation of housing. As we know, before the pandemic, we had a homelessness crisis. It certainly is not, there has been no relief there, and it could be made much worse by the pandemic. So seeing additional funds put into that area is essential. But we are just reviewing it, and just know that some of the basic essential services we have to invest in.
Yeah, I know this is something, personal to you, with the recent passing of your brother, and, condolences to you and your family about that kind of housing in this state and the homelessness crisis. It seems to, be getting worse and worse every year. Kind of, are we close to figuring out, I guess, how to solve this crisis and how to, I guess, clean these areas up so, these people will have a home and, somewhere to go?
Well, as you noted, now I have lost two brothers, and I come from a large family of 5 brothers and 5 sisters. I have spent a lot of time now reading and understanding trauma and what trauma does to individuals. And we see this on our streets in every county now and in every city. And we continue to see more and more of that. And yet our investment in public services sometimes is the first to be looked at when cuts have to be made. So I'm more committed than ever that we look at the conditions that lead to homelessness, that we invest in mental health at earlier and earlier ages. We have seen suicide attempts by younger and younger individuals skyrocket through this pandemic, but we also see every day people suffering with mental health issues that simply cannot be solved by building a shelter. So yes, it's gotten worse. It continues to get worse, but I do think there are models out there that really can make a real dent in the numbers that are rising, and that's what I'm hopeful for.
I guess your district has been kind of hit as exceptionally hard with COVID-19 due to, I guess, the amount of tourism usually received there in kind of the Anaheim area. Can you kind of, I guess, describe to us, I guess, how your district's handling COVID-19 and whether any of the, I guess, the current relief packages out there available to businesses are helpful at all, and kind of what more needs to be done to kind of, I guess, help your district get back on its feet?
Yes, thank you for that question. I have the opportunity to be named as the new chair of the Arts and Entertainment Committee, which is very expansive, which includes theme parks, includes, of course, arts venues, sporting venues, K-12 sports, CIF, technology, tourism, and of course, under that umbrella have had many meet and greets through Zooms with some of not only theme park owners and advocates, museum advocates, orchestra, all of these areas that really people enjoy and have made a life around in California as a kind of iconic place to visit. So certainly they've been impacted along with hospitality, restaurants, and with theme parks closing in my district where I represent North Orange County. We have Knott's Berry Farm, which celebrated its 100 years last year, Disneyland. And just those 2 parks employ close to 20,000 people just in the parks. And that doesn't count the hotels, restaurants, retail. So we know that tourism has been impacted severely, and it is going to take quite a long time to recover. I will be working with Senator McGuire on a budget ask to put in $45 million to really look at rebuilding and the branding of California and saying we're ready to come back. Win safe, win safe. We know
Right.
this is, of course, the COVID is raging, but it certainly is devastating and we need to get people back to work.
You know, especially in, I guess, Southern California, you know, with COVID being so bad, 0% ICUs, you know, is there modeling you guys are seeing or kind of any idea when they expect things to be better and to start, I guess, opening up again?
We just got off the call also with Dr. Magali, the Latino caucus, and in Orange County, certainly the numbers are raging as far as COVID new positive tests. We know that our Latino community has almost 3-to-1 been hit as they are frontline workers, and we're very devastated by it. We are to the point where asking people to follow safety protocols, asking them to not go into establishments that are not essential is not working. So the enforcement part of it has been up to local officials. It's been very discouraging to see that some of the education part of it is simply being ignored. I do know that in the Latino community, everything from vaccinations to getting COVID testing, there is not only fear there, but we know that stepping up aggressive campaigns to get them tested, to get the groundwork laid for vaccinations when they're available is going to be essential. Otherwise, we are going to stay in this pattern across our major hospitals in Orange County and across the state. Tents are being set up. I have my own family members who work in healthcare, frontline workers, and even again with a large family, some of my family members who have been COVID positive. So this is not a joke. It is not fake news, and we have to do everything possible to get our public safety, our council members, our elected officials to get out and share this message. We need testing. We need people to get the testing when it's available and the vaccinations as soon as possible.
You know, last year, I guess the session was cut short. Members had to kind of cut their bills back. You know, this year, I think, you know, each member allegedly is going to be able to have maybe 15 bills or so. Kind of, can you, I guess, tell us what your plans are for 2021 on some bills you're thinking about running this year?
Yes, our bill package this year will focus on housing again. We will be focusing on AUs, which are granny units, a technical package to clarify how individuals or single family homeowners can build housing on their property. We will bring back our mobile home rent stabilization bill, as we want to make sure that that group of individuals can be able to participate in the rent cap that California passed a few years back. So also, as of Monday, January 11th, we will use our theme park bill, which will say that we want to be able to look at theme parks going into a tier that would allow them to safely open, which would move them down a tier. As we know that right now, the tier they are in, it could be a year before they open. So
Right.
that would be one of my individual bills. And then, of course, bills from the Entertainment Committee.
Oh, interesting. So you're going to use legislation to try to change, I guess, a governor's theme park guideline.
Yes.
Wow, interesting.
We know I have been personally out to downtown Disney, not only as a patron. Now, of course, it's all outdoor eating is under executive order to be closed and indoor. but to see the safety protocols that they have in fact instituted, and those are temperature taking, they have hand washing stations, they have many cast members, as they're called, interacting with the public to make sure masks are not only on but worn correctly. And we believe, of course, right now we're in the middle of the virus raging, but when things turn around, that Disney does have the safety protocols and other theme parks following, that they could open in a phased way to get not only their parks open, but get our economy rolling again.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting looking at places like Florida, which opened up, a long time ago and kind of, I guess, surged a long time ago, not having these same issues that we're having here in California right now. So, there must be something to be said about, opening things up with, certain safety protocols. I guess, have you gone to Florida at all, or have you seen, I guess, what Disney's doing in some of these other places that have allowed them to operate?
We have not personally been there, but we have been updated. And the governor's team has as well. And I know that they did visit Florida. Their concern, I think, to be fair, is that because these destinations really are international destinations, would the crowds once entered, could contact tracing be established? Would people continue to follow safety protocols once they're in the park? And those are questions that they had after visiting Disney in Florida. Yet there continues to be evidence that the virus is spread many times from spouse to spouse. It's also spread at people eating, whether it's indoors or outdoors for long term. So to just, in essence, blanketly say that Disney parks, theme parks, sporting venues would be off the list or in a tier that's to positive rates, that they would have to look at staying closed for month after month is not realistic, and it's devastating to these thousands and thousands of employees.
Right. Yeah. No, I guess you froze during that last, I guess, part about the theme parks. Can you, I guess, repeat, I guess, what you were saying there the last 2 minutes? Sorry.
Yes.
Last 20 seconds.
Okay. That our goal is to make sure that we can safely open our theme parks. As we know, thousands of employees are impacted, need to get back to work. And we believe that Disney has the right formula to keep people safe.
Yeah. I guess another interesting thing in giving your experience as an educator, Governor Newsom last week announced, a path for schools to reopen. Kind of, given your experience, what are your thoughts? What's it going to take to get, kids back in school and schools to be open again?
Well, I'm not only a former educator, but my husband is a current teacher and is teaching hybrid from right now. They're off for 2 weeks since January and haven't returned, but are expected to return with students in 2 weeks. It's quite concerning. I know that there are teachers who are concerned about returning, but we also know that the data shows that the spread for particularly younger kids is minimal. We know that testing, again, weekly testing is very important, and that it can be done safely. That does not mean there haven't been teachers or students who have been infected, but there has to be a real question that is asked, which is having kids out of school for almost a year now, where some school districts have not returned at all, to the hybrid model is something we have to be moving forward with. So like the theme parks, we have to, safety has to be not only the priority, but we have to still keep moving forward with the thought of opening up schools, opening up businesses, and doing that as swiftly as possible.
I guess given, that your husband is working in school, is there I guess a timeline in your area where they think that, schools will be in, I guess, full attendance with, kids in class?
It's district to district, and that is a concern for me because depending on the district you're in, and as you know, districts are separated neighborhood to neighborhood. You could live on one street and already have been back to school. Some schools all full time, and other districts not at all. So for example, Fullerton has been back up until this new year since October, Fullerton Elementary. Fullerton High School since November, but Anaheim Union High School District and Elementary have not been back at all. So within even Orange County, there's different school boards that making different decisions. And my concern, again, is going to be for the most disenfranchised student, where we know that this impact is of a year being out of school could really be looked at as almost 2 years of loss of education because some of the students were already behind
Right.
before the pandemic.
One thing you brought up earlier was in the budget, kind of this concept of a digital divide of, students or people at home without proper internet connections. I guess what can be done? What can the legislature do, I guess, to greater enhance broadband access for people?
There will be at least 2 major bills move forward by Assemblywoman Cecilia Aguilar Curry and I believe Assemblymember Eduardo Garcia. They are working on broadband, and on the Senate side, Senator Lena Gonzalez. Now, those were brought forward last year and did not make them out. I believe that there is the interest to see these bills be moved. As we just see, no one expected close to a year of students being out of school. So I think the energy is there to get students at least internet access. And again, it's not just the internet access, it's also making sure the connection, and you
Right.
can see even by our connection here, sometimes you think you have a good connection, it goes in and out, and that's interrupting students' learning.
No, definitely. It's definitely frustrating as a parent or doing work. It's definitely not always there, not always reliable as you'd like it. So anything that can be done, to greater enhance that would be great. I guess, in wrapping up a bit, kind of, last year was a unique year in the legislature. You guys are coming back, hopefully next week. Kind of, I guess, what are your expectations for the session and, some things that you'd like to see done?
Well, I'm hopeful. We always have to look at being hopeful for a brighter future. And I am that even with the pandemic, that we can continue to move California forward. And what I mean by that is getting people back to work, getting people safe and healthy, and fundamentally getting back to some kind of normalcy with students back in the classroom. I think that technology definitely serves a purpose, and we've all become very Zoom acquainted, but we need kids, reading books. We need kids doing experiments, all of these things face to face. And I think that if we can get to those points by the end of this year, kids back in school, people back working, we'll start to see some recovery, and we're desperately going to need that.
Yeah. If you can get us back in Disneyland, you're going to have a lot of fans. Sharon.
That would be even better. The happiest place on earth.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, and we're excited to look for what you're doing, and we'll be happy to talk to you again later this year to see how you're doing and how your bills are moving. So thank you so much, Sharon.
Thanks so much.
Happy New Year.
Thank you. Happy New Year.
Thanks.